seniors or juniors were good at one sport, they translate that into other sports, and it really works well with the athleticism needed for lacrosse. Well, fellas, great job. Outstanding input all the way. We've got a whole lot more to do, though, on this edition of the 2011 Boys Lacrosse Season Review. When we return, we're going to take a look at what everybody has selected as the MSG Varsity High School Sports Fest All-Star Team. Did someone from your school make the cut? Plus, we'll look ahead to next year. What juniors, sophomores, and freshmen will make an impact in 2012? That and a whole lot more when we return to this special edition of the High School Sports Fest 2011 look back at the boys lacrosse season.
What do we have here?
Blunt force trauma to the head.
No. Right there.
Oh, that's a new search feature from IOTV.
I hope they're searching for the monster who did this.
No, it looks like romantic comedies.
There's nothing romantic about this, Jack. Nothing at all.
Find the shows and movies you want to watch. The new search feature, now part of Shortcuts from IOTV.
John McPherson's Training for Life, Tuesday at 7:30 on MSG Varsity. Another Optimum exclusive.
We are just getting started on the 2011 Boys Lacrosse Season Review, and now it is time to introduce you to the best of the best. No, we're not talking about Joe Lombardi and Jimmy Cavallo. It's the High School Sports Fest All-Star Team. You know, guys, I tell you, it's like Survivor Island. Keith, Lou, get out. Joe, Jimmy, you guys stay.
That's like trying to get out of Long Island if you're a high school lacrosse team. The toughest part is always to get off the island.
That's a good point. Traffic, not easy. All right, let's meet the best of the best, beginning with, Case Mathias. And Jimmy, you always talk about it. We're honored to see the best lacrosse in the nation here, and this is one of the guys that are really special to watch.
Well, listen, if you score 5 goals against Manhasset, it's big time. If you do it as a freshman, you're a legend. That is where Case's story started. Freshman year, he puts 5 in against the Indians. Listen, this is a kid. He's a character kid. He's a worth ethic guy. He looks like the paper boy, but let me tell you, he gets after it on the lacrosse field.
Joe, let's head to Central Jersey for the Tournament of Champion winner, Bridgewater Raritan.
And Ryan Hollingsworth, he's the type of attackman that gets it done both as a finisher and a feeder. 44 goals this year, 31 assists for 75 points. The games that really stuck out in my mind, Jared, what he did against Immaculata, the 2 wins, 4 goals, 7 assists, and 11 points.
Jimmy, another state champion, this one up in Connecticut.
Listen, if you're thinking about why the rise of Villanova's lacrosse program, think about because the kind of players they're getting. Mike Francia is one of those guys, a 4-year starter, always got his head on the swivel, looking to get anybody else involved. But he's athletic, man. He'll go to the cage. Mike Francia, at an early age, survived cancer, and he celebrates life on the lacrosse field, game in and game out.
That's a great story. Jimmy, I thought the rise of the Villanova lacrosse program is because of your donation. On to the midfielders, Ralph D'Agostino. Joe, you talked about him earlier in the show.
We did, and this is a kid who Jimmy calls it the toughness trifecta. He plays football, wrestles, lacrosse, and any of you kids out there who think you want to specialize in lacrosse, don't do it. The more sports you play, Jimmy, I think you'd agree, the better. This kid's a prime example.
Listen, he just wants to compete. He's got that look in his eye every time he steps on the field. Ralphie D.
Continuing on with the midfielders, Sal Tuttle. Jim, have you heard of this guy?
Sal Tuttle is a guy, every time I've seen him in his athletic career, he had a big smile on his face. You know what happened in June of 2011? The smile went away, and he decided it was time for Farmingdale to be a state champ. And he got after it on the lacrosse field, got all his teammates involved. He scored the biggest goal of the year to tie the Long Island Championship against West Islip, and he brought Coach Hart his first title in 42 years.
And a reason Hofstra fans have hope in the future, right?
Oh, with the bookends coming from Farmingdale.
Let's go out to Suffolk County, not too far away from Farmingdale, at Walt Whitman, Miles Jones.
And you know, Jared, when people talk about Suffolk, obviously this year in Class A, you talk about West Islip, and you talked about Smithtown West and Sachem North and Ward Melville, but you know, Walt Whitman had its moments this year, actually led West Islip 8-2. One of the main reasons, Miles Jones, in terms of a pure talent, there may be none greater. He's got the size, he's got the shot, he's got it all.
From the midfielders, we move on to the defense. And fellas, you see a trend here between the individuals that lead to great defensive teams, and of course, Darien has that, Joe.
Yeah, Eric Parnon, as far as a closed defenseman is concerned, is as good as I've seen all year. He will be taking his talents to the University of Maryland, an All-America season for him. He was the most valuable player of the FCAC championship game. He had a great year and a great career for the Blue Wave.
Jimmy, how cool is it when you look at Garden City that they can be so dominant on the defensive side of the ball in football, and then also lacrosse, and Brian Fisher was key to both?
I mean, kids grow up in Garden City just thinking about stopping people. Listen, if you grow up in Garden City and you want to be a 4-year starter on the lacrosse field, it's probably a pipe dream. But for Brian Fisher, it was a reality. A 4-year starter for Garden City. Between the restraining lines, there might not be anybody better than Brian Fisher. He will shut down your top midi.
And we'll see him at Harvard next year. Joe, another multi-sports standout, Mike Pellegrino from Connecticut.
And of course, folks who don't even follow lacrosse certainly know the name Mike Pellegrino from his exploits in football. Lacrosse fans nationwide will be knowing him soon as a standout. He will be at Johns Hopkins. When I think of Pellegrino, I think of the P word, physicality. He's got it. And that is really what has carried him to this level.
Joe and Jimmy, I think the toughest decision to make here was about the goalie. It may have been the year of the goalie around the tri-state, but we awarded it to Sam Summers from Wilton.
If you grow up in Wilton and you're a lacrosse player, all you hear is about how good they used to be and the glory days and the title teams. Sammy Summers said, enough! It's over. The 2011 team, we're going to seal the deal. 6'3", big in the cage, going to Army, saw every ball with wide open eyes in the title run. He was awesome.
Another look at the complete high school sports desk all-star first team. There you have it. But we're not done with the first team. Let's extend it because there's so much talent in the hotbed of lacrosse in the tri-state area to our second team. Jimmy, who sticks out?
You know, I think about Kyle Keenan at Smithtown West. You see him on that attack line, heading off to Duke. What an awesome season he had. Spectacular player. In the Long Island Championship loss against West Islip, he had 8 points. 8 points in his final game of his Smithtown West career, playing for his father. What a way to go out.
What sticks out here for me, all seniors here except for 2 guys and only 1 sophomore. That 1 sophomore is Jack Lambert from John Jay. His memorable moment actually came last year in the sectional final against Somers. He cleanly won a faceoff, went right in and scored. Very rare for a long pole, very reminiscent of the goal by C.J. Costabile that won the national title for Duke last year. 2 more years to go for John Jay before he heads off to the University of North Carolina.
Well, as we get closer to the end of the hour, you guys have talked about so many great moments and individual performances throughout the year. The one that everybody throughout the whole country gets juiced up for every single year is the Woodstick Classic. This year, the 120th edition. Jimmy Cavallo had the call on Lax Live on a Saturday in April.
You're playing in the best game in the country today, guys. The Woodstick Classic, Garden City, Manhasset.
Look at this opportunity. Yes, sir. And Garden City has a 1-goal lead. Making the extra pass inside and a goal. Devin Dwyer breaks the tie. Bang! Off the stick of Berkery. And this one is going to be in the books.
And now they got it taken care of. They're figuring they're going to see him again. This is going to be an interesting way to see this season plays out.
And it played out just as everybody expected. For the first time since 1999, Garden City and Manhasset played twice in a season. The second time was the Nassau Class B Championship. Pat Berkery got the game winner for Garden City as GC went on to win the county and the Long Island Championship, and eventually the state runner-up, only losing to Jamesville DeWitt. Steve Jahelka says beating Manhasset, always sweet.
Me and these 43 guys, we knew we were going to do everything to get it back, and to win it as a senior and go out 2-0 against Manhasset senior year is unbelievable.
And you have a lot of course, rivalries, kids growing up together, playing against one another with Manhasset, Garden City, one of the things that makes it special. Another thing, a few of these kids are going to be playing with each other at college. Now, of course, we know for Garden City you have Jahelka, Brian Fisher, Devin Dwyer, all headed to Harvard. From Manhasset, Bobby Dubniak, junior defenseman, also headed to Harvard. So memories of the Woodstick Classic are going to live on for a long time with those kids.
Oh, the Crimson, I mean, just cleaned up on Long Island this year.
Yeah.
And think about it. If you think your school has a great rivalry, think about it. How many times have you played them? 120th meeting. 120 times they have played. It's a game that has the pageantry, the color, but the thing that made this one different, the elephant in the room in the 120th meeting was knowing that they were going to meet again in the Nassau County Championship. With all due respect to those other Nassau County Class B schools, we knew it was coming down to the Indians and the Trojans.
Joe brought up a good point before the first meeting this season about the psychological edge possibly going to the team that loses the first round, knowing you're probably going to see him again, but didn't turn out that way.
Didn't turn out that way. This was such a now Garden City team. I mean, so decorated from top to bottom. And, you know, if you're Manhasset, how long can you keep that run up? They had won 45 straight games, two-time defending New York State champs. It was Garden City's year.
And, Jared, you were only supposed to bring up that point if, in fact, Manhasset came back and won the second game, which they didn't. Come on.
And going on now, Garden City moves on and takes on a very good Shoreham-Wading River team in the Long Island Championship game. And you saw, after a slow start, it was Garden City that just erupted and stormed past SWR.
Yeah, Tommy Gordon and company. And give Shoreham-Wading River credit. They had a great year, won their first Suffolk County title in a couple years. But Garden City, with the likes of Gordon and company and Jahelka and Fisher and Danny Marino in goal, I mean, this was a team that was built to win. And if not for one of the best teams you'll ever see in Jamesville DeWitt, who has now gone 2 straight years without a loss and took it to the brink. Look, we see it all the time in the game of lacrosse. The difference between glory and misery is a pipe, is 1 goal, and it was 1 goal. Look at the difference between Garden City and Farmingdale. Farmingdale hit the pipe, got the rebound, put it in. Garden City could not get that goal in overtime.
You got me fired up, Jimmy. I like that. Well, you know, what's interesting, too, about Jahelka, played injured in that championship game. He had his football season end at Stony Brook against Bellport in the Long Island Championship game. Didn't want it to end on the same field as a high school senior playing lacrosse. So it was a great effort by him and the entire Garden City team. So Garden City playing Manhasset not once but twice. Moment number 2 of the year. We've seen 5 through 2. That means only 1 is left. When we return, we will reveal the top moment of the year from the boys Tri-State lacrosse picture. That, and of course, we're going to tell you what to expect in 2012. I'm telling you, folks, if you thought this year was special, come back and find out what's in store next spring.
July 21st, don't miss a special high school journal marathon with a look back at the best in art, dance, drama, and music from the past school year. Relive the best of high school journal next, only on MSG Varsity.
Just when you thought we've run out of material, not so fast. Here we go on the final segment of the 2011 Boys Lacrosse Review with Joe Lombardi, Jimmy Cavallo, Sean O'Ryan, Jared Greenberg. We've got a whole lot more to talk about. We've gone moments 5 through 2. That leaves 1 to be left.
That's right, Jared. We're going to be talking about what could be making headlines in 2012 a little bit later, but first it is time to reveal the top moment of 2011 on the boys lacrosse scene. And you know what? We actually have to have a 2-parter for this one.
Well, when you're this good, you get it done. Take you back to midway point of the season. Ward Melville and West Islip both entered undefeated. The winner would be in first place. They'd go to overtime. Kyle Turry had never scored a goal in his life. The netminder gets it done. Not only propels West Islip to the win, makes them the #1 team in the Tri-State poll, the nation, and gives them sole possession of first place in Suffolk Class A. Kyle Turry talking about executing when nobody expected it.
I didn't see it go in. I was kind of on the ground. I got hit from behind, but once I realized I was in, it was pretty crazy.
And we are not done with the senior captain yet. In the Suffolk Class A title game, Kyle Turry making an incredible one-on-one point-blank save on Smithtown West star James Pennell early in the extra period to give West Islip possession.
They just skipped it to the backside, and I knew he didn't have much time, so he kind of faked high, and I kind of put my body up there, and I saw a stick going low, so I just dropped my stick.
Yeah, Duke-bound Kyle Turry will join his brother Justin Turry at Duke and John Danowski. And listen, those two moments, first and foremost, the overtime game winner against Ward Melville. It's almost like in the game of football when a lineman picks up a fumble and he starts rumbling down the field and you're thinking, wait, is he going all the way? Could he do this? That's sort of what happens in this. I mean, the goalie's got the ball. He gets to midfield, and now Turry says, I got this a little bit, and he just starts going, and he finishes it off.
The best part was that Coach Craig and the players were joking on the bus ride over to Ward Melville before the game. Hey, he's hit a pipe last year against Chaminade, but he's never scored.
But to beat Ward Melville in overtime, keep their winning streak going, to obtain that lofty status as #1, it's the game and the magnitude of the game that really made it special.
And Jimmy, during the year, West Islip 4-0 in overtime games going into the Long Island Championship game against Farmingdale. I think the reason for that overtime success, a big reason, certainly Kyle Turry.
Well, you know, Jimmy, you were on the mic that day for the Suffolk Class A Championship for that incredible save by Kyle Turry. You know, we can go on and on about what it sounded like and what it meant, but you got to hear it for yourself. Take a listen here.
Boy. Here's Keenan. Keenan, cross crease. Here we go. Oh, Turry! The Wizard of Turry! The Wizard of Turry! Kyle Turry with the save of the century! Are you kidding me, Kyle?
John Sterling promises that he doesn't make up these things beforehand. He doesn't write them down. When did you think of the Wizard of Turry?
It's pretty simple how it works with me. You know, I meet with these coaches personally. We sit down, I talk to members of the staff, and they tell me one thing about a kid, and they say, he's like a wizard out there sometimes. So then I take my little chart, and next to a kid's name, I'll just write wizard. And sometimes when it happens, I'm just thinking of that little catchphrase. But, I mean, that was a play. Sometimes in sports, certain plays seem to be in slow motion as they happen before your eyes. And that play seemed to take an eternity. I mean, here's, you know, James Pinnell, one of the most gifted players on Long Island, on the doorstep. And Pinnell did everything you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to rush that situation. He deked him high, he deked him low, and then he shot. And Turry, listen, he came up huge. He came up with the biggest save of his young life.
Well, you know, your phrases have actually been catchphrases all across the newsroom. These things that you say, they're incredible. Now, you talk a little bit here about Pinnell and Smithtown West. Of course, in our top moment, you see them losing in the Suffolk 8 Championship. But Smithtown West, as we start to look forward to 2012, this is a team that kind of gets you fired up for the next season.
Yeah, their coach, Sean Keenan, will be in his 6th year next year. And, you know, they get a guy like Matty Schultz coming back. And James Pinnell is just special. Pinnell is a guy who emerged on the scene in Smithtown West as an 8th grader. As an 8th grader, he scored 40 points, and his career just skyrocketed. Plus, you throw in the keeper and Ryan Adler, the junior, will be back next year. Listen, you never count out West Islip and Ward Melville because all Scotty Craig has done is won 8 straight Suffolk County crowns. But you have to like the look at Smithtown West when you got the All-American Pinnell and, of course, Matty Schultz, who had 70 points this year.
And how did his brother not win the Tewaaraton Award, huh? What's going on there? He got robbed. Over to Westchester County. Small school Class C. Bronxville had more Division I athletes this year than most Class A programs. Yeah. But they graduate a lot of them. What can we expect next year?
No question. This team, the nucleus of this team, a couple of Division I bound seniors. Jack Neer headed to the University of Notre Dame. Charlie McCormick headed to Georgetown. They led the Broncos to their first Section 1 championship. But as you said, so rare, Jared, at the Class C level to have more D1 talent on the way, and they really do. The Grass brothers, Jack Grass, a sophomore, being recruited by UVA and Duke and some of the top programs in the country, and younger brother, 8th grader, Henry Grass. He has the potential. You talked about Pinnell as an 8th grader, Jimmy. This kid has the potential to be an impact player at the next level, as well as at the varsity level. He hasn't even started high school yet.
Well, you know, when you talk potential over in Connecticut, everyone is thinking about the potential that is always Case Mathias, and everyone is wondering, can Darien get back on top in 2012 to take back the Class M title, and can they do it with Case Mathias back and healthy?
And saying look out for Darien is sort of like saying look out for the Yankees this year. I mean, you know Darien is going to be there, but Case did have surgery on this meniscus 6 days ago. He came through it beautifully. Now he's entering his senior year. Listen, he's had a lot of guys move on, but Case Mathias, the perennial leader, got that head on a swivel. You expect him in his senior season season to try to get back Darien to that promised land. Darien had won 6 straight state titles. Didn't win it this year. Will till be back next year. Gives the Blue Wave a little bit of an agenda for Case's senior year.
Joe, the biggest question at Darien, talk about tradition, is between the pipes at goalie. I think the question has to be next year, like it was this year, who comes in and steps and fills that void?
Well, I don't want to give out too much yet, but let me tell you, Darien's got a goaltender on the way, I think, who's going to be very good. Dylan Torrey did an outstanding job this year, but I don't want to put pressure on anyone. But I don't think the Blue Wave are going to have to worry about that position too much, and it is a key position for them year in, year out, as you say.
In New York City, as we've talked about, lacrosse is evolving, and what used to be the Ivy League, the independent private schools, have really come together to form some really good games and teams, individually speaking. Joe, it seems like Riverdale Country Day is on the verge of knocking on the door of big things.
They really have been, and you know, it's tough to crack, get to the next level with those teams that you've got there, the Poly Preps and the Hackleys. But Riverdale Country Day has had its moments. Now, can it sustain that on a consistent basis? That will be the challenge for this program moving forward. I think the pieces are in place for it to happen. Jimmy, you've seen a lot of them, and I think the potential is certainly there.
Yeah, I was there that day, that video we just saw when they beat Poly Prep Riverdale. But you know what? New York City lacrosse needs rivalries like this. They need Riverdale and Poly Prep to slug it out. You know, they need Midwood and Tottenville to build big rivalries. Nothing makes the guys on the lacrosse scene, the guys in Long Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, happier than when we talk about the growth of the game. And the biggest example of that is New York City lacrosse. We are seeing some highly skilled kids come out of the 5 boroughs.
The most competitive lacrosse in New Jersey year in and year out is in Morris County. Chatham has a chance next year, Joe, with the talent they bring back, to win a county and possibly state title.
Well, absolutely. There's no question about that. The challenge is going to be Bridgewater Raritan returns so much as well. But Chatham is a program that is certainly, after Bridgewater Raritan, going to have the most returning talent next year. This is going to be a team that should have an outstanding season. Of course, you can't predict some things. You know the talent's going to be there a lot of the time, folks. We all know that. How much do the players improve? How hard do they work in the offseason? That's going to be the challenge for this Chatham program right now. But I think next year at this time, we could be sitting here talking a lot about Chatham.
And don't forget about Summit. I mean, everybody coming into this year said, come on, Summit, that win streak will end now. They don't have that squad. The Feeney brothers went off to UPenn. It's going to end. Well, they pumped that win streak to 68 games. Jim Davidson did an unbelievable job. They won another state title. They lost in the TFC final, in the final day of the lacrosse season. But give Jim Davidson credit. He kept that ship rocking and rolling along, and a win streak to 68.
With that incredible system predicated by the zone defense, one of the most incredible stats, and we've talked about it, in 15 games, Summit allowed 2 goals or less. I don't know that that's ever happened at the high school level anywhere.
The season high that they allowed was 6.
It's the program, man. 1,000 kids in their junior program. 1,000.
All right, guys, so we have gone very in-depth in all of our regions. We've earned our pay grade. I think we got it all done. But this is my favorite moment where we kind of go, huh, about the entire season, where we get to look at it, take a step back, and see what really sticks out in everyone's mind. And, Jimmy, I want to start with you. You know, you've called games in pretty much all of our viewing regions. When you take a step back and you get to just think about all the greatness that you got to be a part of, what sticks out as the moment of 2011 that you're going to take away with you?
The mileage that you put on your car.
Exactly.
Listen,
Yes. Oh my
you know
gosh.
what? It's an open and shut case. It's the Dalers of Farmingdale winning their first ever state title and how they did it. I was at the Nassau County Championship against Massapequa. They trailed by 4 goals in this game. They fought their way back, won that game. Against West Islip, they trailed late. They won that game. Gut check time in the state final. They win that game. And listen, Joe Ostrander, defenseman on the team, headed 1,000. Spectacular year, spectacular player. Corey Hendrickson, we talk so much about Sally Tuttle going to Hofstra. Corey Hendrickson did nothing but score big goals all along the way. Throw in Patty Stark, who picked up the ground ball in the game winner in the state final. Prendergast, Peratini, all those guys. What a story. They deliver the first title for Coach Bob Hartraft in 42 years.
The theme that tied the whole tri-state area together this year was reclassification and realignment. Everywhere from New Jersey with Summit, had they still been a Group 1 program, would they have gotten out of the states against Glenridge on Long Island, Manhasset and Garden City, Westchester, John Jay Cross River, and Yorktown? Now, Joe, as we look towards this upcoming season that we're going to look forward to, will you see a theme throughout the tri-state area that could tie it together?
Yeah, you know, when I look at sports, the thing I love about sports if it works out this way, it doesn't always, is the unpredictability of it. And frankly, in lacrosse, with the growth of the sport, that hasn't always been the case because you've had your usual suspects, your strong programs. This year, going into the year, if I had told anyone here that Suffolk Class A with West Islip, with Ward Melville, with Sachem North, with Smithtown West would not be represented in the state semifinals, you really would have been surprised. If I had told you that Darien, after it really had a strong regular season with some monumental wins for the program, including St. Anthony's, would not win another state title, you would have been surprised. If I had told you Farmingdale and Shenandoah would be playing, that far into the postseason, you would have been surprised. How about Bayport Blue Point? If I brought out that,
beautiful.
So I think in the future, we're now at a point with increased participation in lacrosse where we're going to see new names emerge. We don't know who they'll be, and that makes for unpredictability and a lot of fun
Glenn
for us.
Ridge, Glenn Ridge, spectacular defenseman, Matty McMahon going to UPenn, beating Mountain Lakes in that state championship. I mean, Glenn Ridge, you would not have penciled that in to start the year. He is right. Unpredictability. Joe has it right.
Don't you love how all I ask is, what about, the season? And then this starts again. We could go on and on
Listen,
and on.
the bottom line is, and I always say this wherever I travel around the tri-state, the reason why we enjoy the lacrosse because it is the best high school lacrosse in the country.
Yes.
You can say whatever you want about football and basketball. Lacrosse is the top area in the country. We are seeing the best high school lacrosse, and we're bringing it to you every week on Lax Live, all right?
Jimmy Cavallo from Moton Embassy Varsity, waxing poetical about lacrosse. Jimmy, thank you so very much for joining us. Of course, Joel Lombardi, thank you all season long, fellas, for helping us out, really holding it down, holding down the fort for us for all things boys lacrosse.
It was a lot of fun. Joe and I are heading off to Muscle Beach for the summer. If you're looking for us,
we're ready.
Where are we going?
I'm taking a nap.
Okay,
this has been a marathon. I need to recover. Well, this has been an unbelievable season of new champions crowned, winning streaks built and then ended. For Shauna Ryan and our extremely, unbelievably talented producer, David Seppa, I'm Jared Greenberg. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
We're here at Saunders Trades and Technical High School with former Roosevelt football player Mr. Doug Holtz and current Syracuse linebacker.
Well, I invited Doug here to speak to the student athletes about the importance of academics and sports in school. He spoke to several kids. He did some one-on-one with some kids, and we allowed them to have some questions.
And then keep your head on straight, man. Go to school, do your schoolwork. It's simple too, man. They tell you the answers in the book. You know what I'm saying?
I want to play lacrosse in college, but academics will always come first. And without academics, you're not playing sports.
How has playing high school sports in Yonkers changed your life?
It gave me the opportunity to become a better person. It gave me the opportunity to achieve my goal in college. I'm graduating.
The biggest thing I did to Doug was in middle school, I didn't give him the MVP trophy.
Got more work ethic from Yonkers. And I took that and I ran with it. I mean, I went to college, man. The first day I hit the ground running. Outrunning the seniors. They already know. Like, I'm not playing. You know?
He didn't need an award to motivate him. Was he the most valuable player? You better believe he was.
Seeing Doug inspired me because I always felt that kids from Yonkers were at a disadvantage playing sports in higher levels.
When Doug talked to all of us, he really inspired me to do a lot of new things. He went through the same things I'm going through.
How would your life be different if you did not have the opportunity to play sports throughout your high school years?
It would have been difficult. I probably been right out with my friends in the streets, running around, doing a lot of that.
PlayStation certified. The Xperia Play by Sony Ericsson. Only $99.99.
Hey, Wendy. Your lemonade reminds me of my first lemonade stand.
That's the whole idea. Our all-natural lemonade is simply refreshing because it's real lemonade, sweetened with only cane sugar. Or try wildberry, too, like a lemonade stand in your neighborhood.
Mischievous rain threatened Finn and his pup. Tires couldn't grip. The car wouldn't stop. Then came the Michelin Man, reminding them the right tire changes everything. Stop up to 29 feet shorter than a leading competitor with a Michelin tire. Michelin, a better way forward.
Previously on Mike and Mike in the Morning.
Well, that what I was going to ask you, and you brought up the word mentally. Was that the toughest year mentally for you in your career?
It was. It was a challenge in so many ways. But